What's going on, everybody? Here we are. We just got through watching The Acolyte. If I'm not mistaken, it is episode 6. I think some people may like this episode more than the others. We had a little discussion right before that, but let's get into it right here. Like I said, we're talking about The Acolyte. Just got through watching the latest episode here with the patrons and Adelia. Here to just give our immediate, don't have a lot of time to sink in. Watched it, talk about it right afterwards. How's everybody doing to begin with?
With arms wide open.
His arms is wide open. All right. With that being said, that's a little inside the joke from behind the scenes, but with some singing that went on. But here we go. Let's just dive into it. We'll go ahead and get everybody's first initial thoughts, little quick thoughts on it, and then we can discuss a couple of things that happened in the episode in better detail. We'll start with you, Adelia. What did you overall think about this episode?
This is my favorite episode so far. I think that this is one of the better written episodes that we've seen so far too. There's still a few things that are just a little, not great about the writing, but I thought that Chimere, or as I noticed in the subtitles, they kept referring to him as Stranger, leading me to believe that Chimere is not his real name, is the best written character on this show by miles. He's layered. There's depth. There's nuance, and it makes a lot of sense that from what he says that he's behaving the way he's behaving. I also think we still can't trust anything he says, but he, to me, is probably the one person on this show that's telling the closest version to the truth that there is at this moment. So those are my initial thoughts.
Nice, man. What do you think? We'll go with you, Matt. What did you think about the episode overall? Did you like it? Do you think it needed some more action after episode 5, or was you fine with this kind of episode?
Yeah, it would be cool to see some action. You saw the laser whip, though.
Yeah, you got to see the laser whip. You got to see Indiana Jones.
Yeah, so that was cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, no, it was a cool episode. It was cool to see the characters finally some of their motives become apparent and shit. So they know what they're doing. They're not just acting out and shit. Yeah.
What about you, Big Greg?
Oof, man, I like this episode. I think it went off into, it was interesting to see the difference between each apprentice had the opposite. So you saw Saul with May. It was kind of I don't know, maybe I'm reading into this too much, but how much people can feel kind of confined by being in a religion or some kind of strict discipline. She was handcuffed and kind of listening to her master, and then on the other side, it was free. It was real. You can see why the seductiveness of the Sith is kind of it's very freeing, very open, very, you can see why people the whole thing behind it. And then it was interesting to see young Goku's character, kind of it. I want to see what the tie-in for him is. He explained that he got stabbed in the back, and there's got to be some kind of tie-in between him and the Jedi, because he was apparently a former Jedi that we learned. So I'm interested to see where this all goes.
Brandi, what did you think? Opening thoughts about the episode?
Well, I didn't hate it like last time. I liked it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I liked it.
No, yeah, I was just going to say that I think a lot of people's going to be like that. I mean, I had put something on Twitter today before we even watched the episode, or for the season so far, I was at a 4.5. This one episode, I'm going to say at least jumps that up a whole point. So now I'm on the positive side, but just barely at a 5.5 for the series so far. Because you can't, to me, it's going to be hard for them to fix all the things that I had problems with at the first 4 to 5 episodes here. The only problem, I'll agree with Adelia 100% on this. The writing and stuff like that was way better in this episode than I think any episode before. There really wasn't any big problems. I guess the biggest problem would be the fact that like it took so long for Soul to be able to sense it was May. There was a pretty good amount of this episode where he was still kind of like not noticing her. I mean, you can say things like his mind was like focusing on trying to get the message out, stuff like that. So maybe he wasn't paying attention like he normally would be and that kind of thing. So you could possibly get by with that. But yeah, I do agree. This episode right here to me was the best written episode. And it reminds me of wrestling. And when I say that is like, especially these days, back in the day, there used to be a bunch of stories. It'd be like 10, 15 stories happening in wrestling. They all had some cool stuff intertwined with it. And then you would see a pay-per-view and all the matches meant something. The problem with today's wrestling in a lot of cases is there's like one or two big storylines, but then the rest of them don't really matter. Nobody cares. And the reason why I'm saying that is like in this show, I think Kamir, the stranger, bar none. It was like they got together at the writing table, sat down, said, this is going to be an interesting character. We're going to focus on this guy. And they actually like gave him good stuff to work with. He's the most interesting character by far in the entire show, period, bar none, which isn't that good for a show to where your main characters aren't the top character to me. Because I feel like the rest of the stories that happen around it are not even close to his story, not even close to his character. And plus he's a good actor. So like, he's like doing the best, I think, with what he's given as far as that goes. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings overall on it, that like, I'm definitely interested in seeing the last two episodes because I'm really actually engaged with his character after these last couple of episodes and the stuff he was doing, where I wasn't really engaged with a lot of the other characters beforehand. It's like when episode 5 happened and people was dying left and right, I didn't really have that much of an emotional impact. And I thought Jordan's neck getting broke was kind of funny, but I shouldn't feel that way because like he should have been a cool character that I thought going into that episode. You know what I'm saying? And like Jackie looked really cool and could do some cool stuff. And like, I think as an actress, she's like super awesome at doing those things. Like I've seen some videos of her actually training. She could really do those things with like the lightsaber twirling and doing all this cool stuff. And I think that's why they gave her the opportunity to have that big, a couple of fight scenes in that last episode. But then when she died, it was just like, I was like more amazed by how cool it was that the Sith guy had like another little dagger kind of thing. And he just bam, 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 like a cool death scene. But I didn't feel like emotionally attached to the characters. And I just think that's like a lot of people's problems with the show overall. But this episode to me was the best out of all of them. Let's go around. Let's pick out maybe like a big moment or what you think was the biggest moment in the episode tonight. Like maybe just your favorite part of the episode tonight so far. We'll go around the horn here. Adelia.
I think the most important moment of the episode was Osha putting on the helmet. And I'm really curious where that leads next week, because I do think we're, especially after this episode, trending in the direction of a double switch. So Osha's going to fall to the dark side and May will come back to the light.
The old double turn.
But I'm real curious to where they're going with the Osha stuff, with the helmet. Leslie Headland has come out this past week and said that the Kylo Ren music cue in the last episode was deliberate. It's there on purpose and it has a reason for being there. So that makes me question, are we going down the Knights of Ren path that we speculated about last week after we found out about the music cue? I really think that the way that they are dissecting Osha's thought of what was the truth from the Jedi with chimeras, it doesn't have to be that way. You can be yourself, is really interesting to me, and I can't wait to see where they go with that. So that's why that's the most important thing.
Yeah, before we jump to the next person, in that scene, when she puts on the helmet, I think it could go one or two ways, and you can tell me which way you think it's more likely going, and anybody else can jump in as well. But when she puts on the helmet, you think she was just doing it to get closer to the Force because of what he told her about the cortosis and how it works, how it kind of like sensory deprivates you or whatever and makes you like closer to the Force? Or do you actually think her putting on the helmet symbolizes her actually turning bad and doing the double turn, like you're saying?
I don't think that it's happened yet. I think it's some foreshadowing. I will be really surprised if Osha isn't a member of the Knights of Ren or someone's apprentice. Kymir's master, if he's the apprentice or whatever it happens to be, by the end of this series. But I don't think that turn's exactly happened yet, but I think it's definite foreshadowing.
All right. Greg, man, what was really like either your favorite scene or your most interesting scene that you thought of the show whenever we watched it so far?
The helmet is up there for sure. I think 2 for me is like when he gave that little excerpt about him being really old when they were walking on the I don't know exactly what the quote.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's just saying maybe it was like 15 years instead of being like a 6 or 8 years or some kind of time span, or maybe he's even hinting that he's older. Could be interesting.
That, and then the recognition, like the Gomorrah with the whip, she having that look and that kind of like, I think I know who this is, or I think I know who this person is, and she has that little line about tipping the scale. So it's interesting, that connection.
Yeah. I don't know what she really meant by that. Like, as far as that goes. But yeah, there's some pretty good questions I think that be open in this episode. That's why I think it's like the best written episode, and it kind of like leads into like other things and interesting questions. Because I would say like in the episodes before this, the questions they left unanswered was not that interesting. Besides, maybe we'll finally find out what happened at the witch coven. But besides that, I think a lot of the other stuff was kind of like there for the taking. Like you kind of knew what was happening. But Matt, favorite scene or moment, or what you think was the most important moment in the episode?
I think my favorite part was when she asked him, have you told me everything about what happened back in the day?
And then he got real serious about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then I think you're going to be like a lot of other people, though. You didn't like the fact that you didn't get what happened back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think you were going to reveal that much, but yeah, with 2 episodes left, I don't know what they're going to do.
Got you. Brandi, your favorite scene or most interesting scene?
What was interesting about the helmet? I love Basil. Basil's my favorite.
Basil's great.
Yeah, I think some people,
and I think he probably informed Soul. Soul must understand him, and Soul knew it was May, not Osha. And then he zapped her, and he knew, and he said May. And then you see Basil behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Look, guys, I'm gonna be the most important, probably most interesting thing that happened in here is we saw a person in a Star Wars either show or a movie basically be naked. We just didn't get to see none of the nakedness.
We didn't get no House of Dragons.
It wasn't no House of the Dragon episode. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't none of that. No full frontal nudity or nothing. They was creative with that and everything else. I just think, like I said, Quamir is a super cool character. Like I actually really like him, so I'll definitely be finishing the show. Just to be able to see where he's coming from, what he's doing. The Knights of Ren thing is really interesting to see where they might be trying to go with that. I thought it was interesting whenever she saw the scar on his back and asked him about it, and he wasn't like forthright about it. He was kind of like, what do you think happened? And then she really didn't answer it. So it leaves like a thing. Maybe this guy was part of the dark, like left the Jedi, went to the dark side, and like the guy who would have been, say, his Darth Lord or whatever, like didn't think he cut the mustard, you know what I'm saying? And kind of stabbed him in the back, and then he survived somehow, and he's trying to do his own thing. Like that was something that kind of struck with me a little bit. That could be kind of an interesting thing to try to tell. It's just tough because there's only 2 episodes, and we know they're not very long episodes. But yeah, I think a lot of people kind of like episode 4, I guess, with the way it ended. Everybody's gonna have like basically blue balls after this because like You're literally the one thing you need to know for this show to see how much it truly makes sense, and to see all these other things. They literally just leave right there. He said he's about to tell her, and then it goes away. So I'm pretty sure next episode is going to be a flashback, and then the last episode will be like basically the conclusion of the what's happening now. And maybe the whole episode next week is not a flashback. Maybe it's a little faster. Maybe we just get like faster moments, and maybe it's only half the episode and not the full episode. That's probably something they could do, since technically they told us the groundwork on the first flashback. So now they can just jump to a few scenes about like what really happened there at the end. Or maybe they just tell us what, or maybe Soul just tells us what happens at the end of it, right? Like what happened with the commotion, how did the witches die, all that kind of good stuff. I think that's, what we got going on. But yeah, by far, man, Khmer, Stranger, whatever you want to call him, and however he's like in the Sith, I think he's in that level somewhere. I just, because of some of the stuff, and they're not answering things like exactly where are they at. And it's like, like the Jedi's almost scared to say Sith. Like they didn't say Sith in that meeting, and everything else, which to me should have been something somebody probably like accidentally misses or mentions, right? Because they do know, especially the older Jedi know they exist and have done some things. So, and then we even have Venestra on this episode. She's kind of almost hinting at it. You know what I'm saying? She just doesn't say it, right? Because she's like, hey, what else do you think could have happened? And the one guy brings up Saul because he's like the most powerful person that would have been there, that could have possibly did what this person did. And then she still kind of like throws in a line. I can't remember the exact phrase, but she throws in a line there that's kind of like, what else? Kind of almost like hinting at something else, but like she doesn't say it either. There's just a lot of hints there. I thought that the little saber whip thing was going to look really goofy, but in the moment that they used it and how it used it, like it didn't look that bad. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that so far. Maybe we'll find her in some kind of battle scene in the last episode or something. But yeah, I do think this was the best episode out of all the ones that we watched, writing wise. Like there was some cool action in the last episode. Like I gave it some marks for that. Even went back and watched some of that stuff again because I was like, man, that's kind of cool stuff going on. But in this episode, to me, the best written of the bunch, and Adelia agrees with that. It seemed like so, and I think pretty much all of us would probably be in agreement with that. There wasn't no weird logic choices in this one. Like I said, the only thing you could complain about would be Soul not noticing May as May a little faster.
But I kind of understand why he hasn't noticed May is May so soon too, because he's still very emotionally distressed at that moment, and it's not until he takes a moment in front of that board while he's resetting the system himself, and he goes back, and then he sends May off, that he's had some time to reflect on it by himself, and he sort of gets this look on his face while he's looking at that board while it's resetting. Like, that's to me the moment when I'm like, okay, that's when he noticed that's not Osha.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, it would make sense.
How shocked would y'all be if, like, I guess I'm all anticipating, I don't know about y'all, but I'm anticipating that like Saul's gonna reveal that he, like, them and the Jedi like killed them, other like the whole coven or whatever. Would y'all be shocked if it was something else? Like,
I think there's a little bit of an element of something else because, and I'll spoil one of the little trailer videos here. I mean, it's publicly out there, so it's not really spoiling it. There's a scene in there of Kelnaka using his saber and fighting off Torben. So we're going to get that flashback, but I think that somebody else was there, took control of Torben again, and sort of turned Torben against them. And I don't know if the result of that ended up being that they attacked all the witches or what, but I think there's some other element, and I would not be surprised at all to find out Chimere was there.
It's almost has to be. I am going to kind of be disappointed if it turns out this way. I do think this show could have went in a cool, interesting route of introducing someone like Darth Tenebrous, which would have been Plagueis Master, or even Plagueis. Like at this point, because he was a different creature, they could do whatever, because technically his age wouldn't be total 100% canon when it comes to Plagueis. So they could change that even if they had to, because I think it's going to be something to do with the witches and as being like the one that was in charge or over the Stranger or Khmer. Because he says like another interesting thing he says in here was she's asking him like, what do you want? And he's like, he says the power of two and not the rule of two. And their whole chant was like the power of one, the power of two, and everything else. So like, but maybe he's just saying it that way. So it may not even mean a whole lot. So we'll have to see. There's still a little bit of mystery. It's like I said, the mystery that people thought they were going to get, they really didn't get on this show. I think that was some of the marketing and stuff, the kind of way they had actually said it. Because I think the real mystery here is just what happened in the past, why these Jedis are acting like they're acting. That's the true mystery in this show. And we're going to get answers, pretty sure, in this next episode when it comes to that. But they have to do something. I don't know what they're going to do, but to me, one of the things I'm going to go back to that's going to keep it from having a super high score for me is according on how they do it and what we learn. But yeah, Torben's got to have done something. And I don't even know, man, if it like makes it good if he if he committed suicide, because like if someone takes control of him, right, and makes him do something that he normally wouldn't have done. He was possessed, kind of like he was like in one of the early episodes. Like, I just don't think that's enough for you to commit suicide. Maybe you feel bad, right, because you couldn't fight it off. But does that make you want to kill yourself like he was and like stay silent for that long? If
Torben is the one, let's say, that killed all the witches, and they were trying to get Torben back, even if he didn't do that of his own volition because someone had taken control of him, that'd be really, really fucking hard to live with.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, I'm not saying that would be easy, but you also know it wasn't your fault. And obviously the other people of your team, even Kaunaka, because we see them together in the ship there at the end of that episode. And you can even see like where Torben's does have a scar. It probably came from Kaunaka. So if people that wanted to see the Wookiee fight, you might be able to see that in this next episode. But my thing would be is like all those Jedis kind of still stood behind him. It didn't seem like he was chastised. They didn't have him locked up. They didn't act like they were afraid of him. So it would be
that
like
might have been his way of dealing with it, though, was to take the Barash vow and meditate on the Force and try to come to terms with what he'd done. And then in that time, seeing a vision of May and what was to come and deciding that was his way out.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, people do crazy things here in the real world. So I can like at least accept that. To me, was be like, I don't know. We'll have to see. We're going to find out next week how bad or whatever it is and what happens exactly. But like I said, man, I think this episode brings actually good questions to the table. The past episodes I didn't think brought like super good questions. It was like questions of why did someone do this, or why did someone change their mind this quick, or something like that. I think this episode gave us like real questions to think about, and like not the why did this happen, or does this make sense? Now I think this is actually leading to something, at least in this episode, to the next episode. So I'm pretty excited about finding out what's going up. Like I said, I had a little uptick in my score. And like I said, I think most people, even in our group, and I think a lot of people that watch this episode, there's really like I don't think there's a lot, man, because I like this show has me like paying attention to some of the detail. There's not a lot here that I think you could really truthfully criticize. And like I said, a lot of it was the Kamar character, and like I think he's going to be the most beloved character coming out of this show. Does everybody else agree with that? Or I mean, does somebody else have like a favorite character? Not just because they're cute. I know Brandy's going to say the old mole man, but oh, Basil over there. But like, my thing is,
I like Jackie too.
Well, she's gone. You know, she's off to the shadow.
But I liked her.
But would you say you liked her even more than the Kamir guy? Like, I know you don't like. He's not a character to root for because he's kind of bad, but as far as like a character that's interesting to find out more about, do you actually?
Yes, I wanted to know more about Jackie, but they killed her. Well, so
everybody did. Just be honest with you, I think a lot of people did. But what about you guys? Like, what's your favorite character? Mine's definitely Kamar. Like,
it's probably him. Like, I wanted to get into a relationship between Osha and May. I wanted to really feel that relationship. I feel like they kind of like made me less care about it throughout these episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something they could do that brings it back. Maybe if I find out May doesn't start the fire and they have some kind of like tough decisions at the end.
Start the fire.
Then
It
maybe I'll
was
care about
always
it.
Don't sing.
Don't-
Don't sing.
So
Matt, you. Yeah, I was gonna jump the Matt, but it doesn't. I mean, whoever. But like,
No,
who's your favorite
Matt can
character,
go.
Matt?
Probably Jordan.
R.I.P. the homie.
Matt, for people that don't know, likes it when people's necks get broke. If for some reason it's like his favorite sound in movies.
Yep. I cracked my neck like 10 minutes ago. What's his name? I already forgot. The same dude you guys picked.
Oh, come here. Okay, the
yeah,
stranger.
Gohan.
Nobody really
Yeah.
knows his name, Matt. So
Yeah,
you're
I
good
just
to
call him
go.
Gohan.
Yeah, Gohan.
Go on.
Yeah, Adelia.
It's definitely Kamir, but if I had to choose someone other than Kamir, I'd say I find Saul pretty interesting.
I do as well, and I do think that actor.
Good
I commend
actor.
that guy. Like he learned English, like
Yeah,
probably to learn English.
Major
but
props
this is his first.
to the actor.
Yeah, this is his first English speaking role, and like, yeah, he's done well. I like in the whole time, even sometimes in this episode, like when he's feeling sad, and I know it's kind of crappy to think about, but like he's feeling kind of sad because like his whole team dies, and I'm like, bro, you sat there and watched them the whole time. Where was you? Like, bro, what the hell? Besides that last second thing to help Osha when she's running away, like, bro, he sat there and watched his Padawan die, and then he's like, no. It's like when your friend asks you to help, move, and you like ignore their text message, and then you give them a lot of time to where they're probably done, and then you finally send the message, oh, I just saw this. It was, are you good to go? Or did you get it? And then they're like, yeah, man, thanks. But yeah, I think we got it from here. It's like, and then you're like fist pumping because you didn't want to help move. That's kind of like, it's like, bro, he didn't want to help fight. Just watched her. And then it's like, no, I'm sorry that you just died. It's like, but besides that, like that stuff he can't help as an actor. I think the actor's doing a fabulous job with the stuff he's being told to do.
Yeah. I will say,
yeah,
sort of to that point, that the timeline of things, like the passage of time, is still very weird in this show. Like, how are Chimere and Osha on another planet already, but Saul and May are just getting to the ship, but they're there, and Venestra shows up, like, but it seems like they hadn't been on the ship that long. Like, it's very weird, the timing of the passage of time in this show.
I think it's because of the time of the show, 30 minutes. You're not giving stuff time to breathe. Like, I would have rather them take some of the convolution out, maybe things that you could take out and make just longer episodes, and maybe just release like 4 episodes instead of trying to do an 8 because it sounds good. It's almost like, bro, you're just doing it because that's what most shows do, is at least 8 episodes. Stop doing that. Do what feels right for the show that you have, because that's one of the other things. It's like, that's a good point, because it's something that I brought up in one of the earlier episodes where they go all the way to Coruscant and then come back and meet May at the hut about 30 seconds after she arrives. But May and them went straight to the planet. So how does that work? And then, like you just said, that makes sense, right? Like, I get hyperspace jumping, but then they don't really like. Yeah, it's just kind of weird how all that stuff like occurs.
There's hyperspace jumping, but you still have a passage of time to travel, even in hyperspace.
Yeah, so for instance, in the original trilogy, in the original trilogy, for instance, like when Obi-Wan and them are traveling and they show up and they say, oh, that's no moon or whatever, and they see Alderaan like floating in pieces because everybody's dead. There's like bodies. No, I'm just playing. But like in that scene in the original trilogy, if I'm not mistaken, when I was looking up stuff like that, that was like a hyperspace jump, but it was like a 2-day. It was like 2 days. It wasn't like them showing up instantly, right? Like you think it does. Yeah. It's like the passage of time. Like you actually see Luke training in the ship and stuff like that. Like it takes more time than what you think. You just don't instantly teleport somewhere. That's another good point. But like I said, it just comes with like, you got 30-minute episodes.
Yeah, hurry this around.
That's the same length of a sitcom from back in the day when you didn't really have to worry about anything except for like each show and a little thing that's happening in each little show. And this is trying to tell like a full-blown story So I think that's where some of the issues is. Anybody else with any last things before we get out of here? Basil? Brandi, you want to give a shout out to your boy Basil?
Mm-hmm.
One last one before we get out of here? Oh,
Nope.
Guess not. With all that being said, we're about to get out of here, guys. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, do all that great things. Leave comments on what you thought about this episode in the comment section down below. And until next time, peace.